On today's episode of Locked On Angels, the good, the bad, and the ugly up until now since the beginning of the season. What's gone on in the world of Angels baseball in the last month? And where's the good? Well, let's look for it together.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you want to give back to Mike and I, the Super Halo Bros, for all the Super Halo content, there's some things that you can do for us. First of all, you can leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. Super helpful. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, because then it puts the video in front of other Angel fans who might be interested in becoming Locked On Everydayers as well. And if you're not subscribed already on YouTube, we would love for you to become a Locked On Everydayer and subscribe. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's the best way to get in touch with us and be part of the conversation. I appreciate you being here. This is Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. I'm John Frisch. I'm one half of the Super Halo Bros and the co-host of Locked On Angels. Mike has some electrical work happening at the house today, and so they've turned the power off all day long. You know, it's like the old cable guy who used to come through and be like, yeah, we'll be there between 8 and noon or 1 and 6. That's kind of how it is for Mike today. But listen, Mike and I have been fans of this team for years, and we love talking Angels baseball with you every single Monday through Friday. And we're here 5 days a week talking about our Halos, for better, for worse. Now, a programming note before we get started, guys. I know there was a game against the Royals last night. Reid Detmers on the mound against Michael Wacha. The last I checked, it was not going well. But I will let you know that Mike and I, when he's back, we're going to cover the entire series against the Royals on Monday, as we usually do when there's a 3-game set. And so we will do the entire Royals series on Monday for you. On today's show, however, we didn't get a chance last month, or at the beginning of this month, to do our good, the bad, and the ugly, because I was sick, I was ill, I was in the hospital, and I really just want to take a moment to say thank you to everybody who reached out. I know that maybe I got to do this before, and I definitely did it on Twitter, but thank you to everybody who reached out. You gave me your thoughts, you gave me your condolences, your prayers, and all those things. And I'm just so happy to be back. And your kind words mean more to me than you could ever know. I thought it was the flu. Turns out I got bit by a bug, a mosquito or something. And I got some Oregon Trail nonsense. I got typhus. And so I had to take some antibiotics and medicine to get better. So be careful out there this spring and this summer. Use that bug spray, because it happened to me and I never thought it would. Bugs love me, by the way. And so that's how I ended up with that nonsense, in case you were wondering what the heck happened to John. I thought it was the flu. It definitely was not the flu, because it was not going away. So take care of yourselves, because we love having you here. We want you to be healthy and happy. And again, I'm so grateful to all of you, for everyone who reached out. Listen, on today's show, like I said, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I want to start by talking about the good. And is there any good from this last month? Well, the truth is, yeah, there's some good, but keep in mind, there's going to be some overlap, I think, with which players have had good, but it doesn't mean they're not going to show up in the bad or the ugly either. And so just keep that in mind as we have these conversations. First of all, let's start out with the starting pitching and Barry Enright, the pitching coach. Reid Detmers, currently, as of this recording, I know it wasn't looking good last night when I checked and I started this recording, but he was currently sitting at a 3-3 record and 7 starts with a 4.24 ERA and a 97 ERA plus, making him 3% worse than league average. But I want to talk about the good when it comes to Reid Detmers, and it's his first 4 starts against some really good teams. It was Baltimore, Boston twice, and then the Rays. He showed us that there's a good pitcher in there somewhere. And while he's been having recent struggles, we talked about his fastball location earlier this week and how he was kind of around the zone as opposed to right down the middle and giving up way too many hits in the zone. By the way, they pointed that out on the broadcast last night. I got a humble brag for a little bit. Mike and I covered this on Monday, and then they brought it up on Thursday with his start about the fastball and where it's been in his good starts versus where it's been in his bad starts. And I thought, hey, somebody's listening to Locked On Angels and had an idea to put that on the screen. So I'm going to take that as a shout out. I'm going to chalk that one up for hashtag Halo Bros no ball. That's what I'm going to do. But here's the thing about Reid Detmers. He, in his first 4 starts, had a 1.19 ERA and a 1.57 fielding independent pitching. And in case you're unaware of what that is, we often call it FIP. It's what the pitcher has the ability to control. And according to the results from his first 4 starts, Detmers, in everything that he can control, hits, walks, home runs, all that stuff, 1.57 FIP. And also, if you imagine that he has at least an adequate league average defense behind him, that is also a factor in FIP. So again, Reid Detmers showing some good signs to start the season. He said he wants to be a 20-game winner. Well, he's 3-3. And like I said, looking at the results of last night so far, it doesn't look like he's going to be 4-3 in this one. But I might be wrong. You guys are in the future. I'm currently in the future now, so maybe you know more than me. Maybe the Angels pulled it off. But it was kind of the one game against the Royals we thought they would have a chance because Waka has not been good, but he's probably going to get right against the Angels, as the Angels tend to do. Let's talk about Patrick Sandoval, and the good here is getting away from that 4-seam fastball. In 2022, the batting average against his 4-seam was 372. Hitters were getting 372 off of his fastball, and the expected batting average was 319. So it was actually worse than what was expected in 22. Last year, the batting average against his fastball, 336 with an expected of 307. So again, worse than it should have been. And then this year, you guys, this is ridiculous. Hitters have been hitting 448 against his 4-seam fastball and an expected batting average of 305. So again, worse than it actually should have been, but still not good when it's up in the 300s. Since 2022, hitters have slugged 500 and over on his 4-seam fastball. So Barry Enright, to his credit, the pitching coach, said, cut it. You're not using it anymore. And the last time Patrick Sandoval went out there, he brought it down to 2% usage in his last outing. I love that because it's still a weapon he can use, but he's not using it to set up his other pitches. It's nice to know that we have a pitching coach who can see things like this and tell his pitchers to adjust. We have not had that for years. Next up, Tyler Anderson. He's been much more of an effective starter this year. He's had 7 outings where 5 of them have been 6+ innings, currently sitting at a 2.74 ERA. He's got a 2-4 record. He's kind of like Detmers in that he started out strong. His last few outings have been rough. However, he's given up 4 runs or less in the games that he has given up runs in. He gave up that grand slam against the Pirates the other day. That was 4 runs, 3 against the Phillies and the Red Sox, 2 against Baltimore, and 1 against the Reds. So in reality, Tyler Anderson, the most he's given up is 4 runs in a game across 6 innings or so. He's kept the Angels in the game. And the record shows that the Angels didn't pick him up. That 2-4 record shows that the Angels offense didn't give him the support that he needed. This is important. And I think this is good because I think there's going to be some trade value at the trade deadline. By that time, he'll have a 1.5 years of control left on a really affordable contract, and contending teams always need starting pitching and relief pitching. He could be that for someone. Let me talk about Jose Soriano. I love the gamble that they've taken with him to let him be a starter, and he's proven to have starter stuff. He went 6 scoreless innings against the first place Guardians in his second to last outing. The last outing, he had a tough 5th inning against the Pirates, and there could be multiple reasons why, but he's learning and growing as a starter. And now in this 2024 season where there's no expectations, it's the perfect time for Jose Soriano to actually figure out how to be a starter. He's got the stuff, and I have no doubt he's going to continue to have success. Everybody has blow-ups. I commented the other day, Aaron Nola has had 2 starts this year where he went 4 innings. Pablo Sanchez of the Twins also had 2 4-inning outings. So it's going to happen to these guys, even veterans. The mound visits and the pep talks, another good from this season. I love seeing Ron Washington go out there, have conversations with his pitchers, get them fired up and say, hey, do what you do best. It gives them the motivation and the focus to get right and keep going. And Barry Enright's visits have been effective as well. Next, the young guys are playing. It took them a while to get there, and we had to dump Aaron Hicks to actually make it happen. He should have never been an everyday player, and he should have only platooned with Mickey Moniak because Moniak struggles against lefties. Hicks hits well against lefties, but for some reason, Ron Washington didn't see that, and so I'm so glad that Hicks is off the team at this point. But we're seeing the likes of Neto, Adele, Ohapi, Shawnuel, Moniak. They're getting the time that they need, and this is good because of the consistency. And isn't this what the team needs? The team needs answers for the likes of Joe Adele. He's been back and forth and up and down from the minors. This is a good example of figuring out who he is and what you have and give him a full season in the majors to do it. I think this year is the year that they had to do it. He's ready. He had some things to work on in the minors, and I think that he did work on that. And that goes for all the young guys, by the way. The fact that these guys are getting the time that they deserve. Finally, Ron Washington. I have questioned some of the decisions he's made in terms of the lineup construction, some bullpen issues with bringing in Jose Suarez in games that are close, should never happen. But let me talk about not Jose Suarez. Let me talk about Ron Washington for a second. With the young guys, I love that Wash has been real and upfront with those young guys. For example, telling somebody like Moniak, hey, you know those 14 home runs you hit last year? I don't think you're that guy. Bring what brought you to the dance, and that's hitting the ball to all fields. And the same with Joe Adele. You don't have to pull everything, Joe. You got enough power to drive the ball into the gaps as long as you use the whole field. And we've seen that result with Joe Adele. It's just going to be as good as a bases clearing double than a homer when it comes to Joe Adele. And it's more likely to happen that way too. Joe Adele, yes, he's got the power to pull pitches and hit stuff into the stands. At the same time, Joe Adele has to learn how to use all fields. And I'm glad that Ron Washington is around these young guys to actually make that happen. So that's the good. Of course, we're going to get into the bad and the ugly, but I want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen every single day. The Angels are back at it tonight, 6:38 Pacific time at the Big A. This one's on Apple TV, but if you don't want to tune in there, you can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels, the bad and the ugly. You probably know what's coming, and we have to talk about it coming right up. Hey, today's episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Stitch Fix. Guys, listen, I know the phrase that's like, however you dress in your late 20s is how you dress for the rest of your life. Don't let that happen to you. It's time to upgrade your wardrobe. You can throw out those old t-shirts that you've been hanging on to, those worn out pants, and let our friends at Stitch Fix help you to look good. With Stitch Fix, it's easy to upgrade your style with the help of a professional stylist that's going to help you find new on-trend favorites that are going to work for you. Here's how it works. Just give a Stitch Fix stylist your size, your style, and your budget preferences. That's important to me, keeping it in the budget, right? And then they send 5 just for you picks, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. You keep what works and what you like, and you send back the rest. In fact, the good news is shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Plus, there's no subscription required. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy, so there's no need to go to a shop and look around. I got a gift card burning a hole in my pocket for like 3 years I haven't even used. I think Stitch Fix is going to be the way to go. Save time and the effort and order from Stitch Fix and get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB so that you can get $20 off your first fix. When you sign up, you must redeem this offer within 7 days. So go get started right now. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $20 off. Again, stitchfix.com/MLB. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Everydayers, if you haven't done so yet, you got to check out Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program just for you every day to bring the biggest stories in sports. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And speaking of your team every day, the Angels are back at it tonight, playing the Royals, 6:38 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast on SiriusXM or the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels. Now, we talked about the good. We got to talk about the bad. And there's a lot of bad to go around, and it might take 8 shows to cover it. But I think I narrowed it down for us on today's episode. Let's start with the record. The Angels have been sub 500 and have even dipped into double-digit games under 500. There have been blowout losses. There have been close games where they don't come through with runners in scoring position. And there have been games where they've made mental errors and mistakes and misplays that have really cost them the game. They've run themselves into outs and things like that. And the worst part is they're hanging with teams like the first place Phillies, who are just destroying everybody right now. And they're losing those close games. They've won 2 series so far. They swept the Marlins. They took 2 out of 3 from the Pirates. And then they split a 4-game set with the Rays. Not good enough, especially in a game where you have to win series. This record has been very bad. Let's talk about part of the reason why the record has been bad, and it comes down to Carlos Estevez. The trouble has come early for him this year. He's got 6 saves so far, but he's blown 2 saves, one where he even took the loss. He surrendered 2 runs to the Rays. That became a 6-7 loss for the Halos. So it was a 6-5 game, and then he gave up those runs. And there's where the Angels could have won another series, but instead they split the series with the Rays. He gave up 3 runs to the Phillies in a game where the Angels, again, could have won. They came in to that inning with the lead. Carlos went out there, gave up 3 runs to Philadelphia. Like I said before, they're hanging in these close games, and then you run out your closer who's supposed to do one job, and that's hold the lead. And even when you have a big lead coming into it, Carlos has still not been very reliable. Doesn't seem like he can go back-to-back and save chances, and that's not what you want out of a closer. Now, I will say he's on an expiring deal, so come the trade deadline, like I mentioned with Tyler Anderson, this could be something that another team could plug him in maybe a setup role, but the Angels could get something from Carlos Estevez come the trade deadline. When it comes to the bad, there's growing pains. We've seen it. This is a young team, and this is a young team that is making mistakes. Think about Nolan Schanuel, who struggled to start this season. He was being somebody that he absolutely wasn't, and that's a guy who's trying to swing for some power. Just let Schanuel be Schanuel. I know that he's come around since the beginning of the season. The guy's a base hit guy, and I understand that you want a power corner infielder. The truth is there's a lot of power from other areas of this team, and so that's something to take into consideration. But another growing pain for Schanuel was that non-slide at home. I mean, he got sent by EY. Taylor Ward didn't tell him to get down, gesturing enough for Taylor Ward. We covered that on Monday's show. But the truth is, that's a mistake that you don't make when you're a major league ball player. You got to slide. Joe Adell, more growing pains. The right field defense. I know that his defense has been an issue every time he's come up to the majors. And then last year, it looked like he turned the corner on that. And I give credit to the fact that he played almost every day, except for when he was injured, in the minor leagues, and then he came up to replace Trout in July, and then he got hurt. But he came back and did very well on defense. This year, though, he's run into Hicks and he's run into Trout. It's caused misplays out there, and it's just not been a good look for Jo Adell. And then the base running. When did this become a problem for Jo Adell? I can't remember him having base running struggles in previous years that he's been up with the major league club. But you got the example of him overrunning a stolen base at second and just standing there and getting tagged out. And all of us went, what are you thinking? There's been opportunities where he hasn't slid and taking off for a stolen base before the pitcher even throws the ball. This is what we're going to get, you guys. And it's frustrating in the moment, especially when it costs us games and the Angels run themselves into outs. And you hope that with the growing pains, that this is something they learn from. I'm not saying it's never going to happen again, but you can bet that Ron Washington and company address it. They addressed it with the media, but Jo Adell overrunning that bag, and Ron Washington said, if you're going to get that bag, you got to get that bag. And overrunning it is not how you get that bag. So there's an area where you hope that they learn from these growing pains. Another bad area has been the depth. And we all knew coming into this season that there were going to be injuries. And don't worry, I'm going to get to those. But we spoke about the depth that the Angels added over the offseason. When Mike and I were covering the moves that the Angels were making, they were signing guys like Willie Calhoun to a minor league deal, Jake Marisnick to a minor league deal, right? They added Charles LeBlanc, and they added Hunter Dozier, those sorts of guys. And all we had to do over the offseason was cover, oh, there's another depth piece. There's another, former guy who's been in the big leagues, which is what you want when you need a backup to your backup. But we're already seeing the effects of it. These are the guys we spoke about over the offseason. And we specifically said, these are the guys that you hope you never see on your major league club. And now we're seeing them. They've not been terrible. I got to give it up to guys like Calhoun and even Cole Tucker's, trying over there at third base. But I know he got in the way of a Neto play last night. At the same time, he's started out decently. But look, this is the state of the Angels roster. This speaks to the lack of depth. This speaks to the fact that they didn't anticipate injuries to Trout and Rendon. And they also didn't anticipate injuries to guys like Rengifo and Sano and Drury. This is where we are because they did not anticipate enough that they were going to need replacements who were more than capable. Look, I understand adding AAA depths, and these aren't the guys you ever want to see. But then I think about hey, Gio Urshela was out there and he got a really affordable deal. And he could have played competent third base when Anthony Rendon inevitably goes down. It's that kind of stuff that's frustrating to me. And it's that kind of stuff that puts the Angels in the state that they're in. So when it comes to the depth on this team, we're seeing it, and it's not great, and it's not fun. And a lot of people have said, what is this spring training lineup that the Angels are running out there? And they're really feeling the effects of that right now. Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at Policygenius. Policygenius is the smarter way to buy insurance. Their proprietary technology makes it easy to compare personalized quotes and policies from the top-rated insurers side by side. Look, I know you're getting older, I'm getting older, and these are the things that you got to start thinking about, and Policygenius is there for you. Their team of licensed experts is here to answer questions, handle the paperwork, and help you make your decision with confidence. They work for you, not the insurance companies. So you can explore coverage options to making a policy adjustment as your life changes. Policygenius is your advocate at every single step. And Policygenius is committed to making sure your information remains secure. Your security is their priority. They use industry-leading security practices to help you keep your information safe. Keep it off that dark web. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see just how much you could save with Policygenius. Again, that's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. And today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. Mother's Day is on Sunday. Don't screw it up. And you don't have to, because DoorDash is here for you. You can surprise mom or the mom figure in your life from wherever you are. You don't have to be local, because DoorDash is here for you. They got fresh bouquets of flowers, the latest tech, gift cards, self-care treats, and much, much more to make her Mother's Day that much better. No matter what she's into, you can make her smile with the help of a DoorDash delivery. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place. And get this, guys, 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 plus on flowers, convenience items, grocery, or even retail stuff. You can order it all on DoorDash, and you can do it with our code LOCKEDONMLB. Again, 50% off your order, up to $15 when you spend $15 plus on your next order. You just got to use our code LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today, and of course, some terms do apply. I talked about the bad on this team, and now I'm going to get into the ugly of the last month and a half of Angels baseball. There's a lot, you guys. Like I said, it could be an 8-episode series, episodic daily episode series of the bad and the ugly. I got to start with Jose Suarez. This guy is driving me absolutely insane. I understand he's the long relief option out of the bullpen, and he's the only other lefty in that bullpen. But Ron Washington using him in situations where the game is on the line is completely ridiculous to me. The fact is, we should not be seeing Jose Suarez unless they're down 7 or up 7. And even then, when they're up 7, it makes me nervous. So that has just been one of the most ugly parts of the season. I wanted to focus on that for a bit, but the big thing I'm going to focus on here is, and you probably called it, the injuries to this team. Not only is Brandon Drury suffering from a hamstring injury, he's got some tightness in that leg, and it sucks because he's just been coming around with the bat. Now he's on the 10-day IL. Luis Rengifo has this virus. He didn't get typhus. He got something else. But he's got this virus that's been giving him fevers and blisters on his feet. So he's on the 10-day IL. And here we are picking up guys like Luis Guillorme, who is a good defender, but he's not going to bring much in the way of the bat. And that's just the state of the Angels roster right now. But I got to talk about the big three here, and that's Anthony Rendon. It's a hamstring injury for Anthony Rendon. He's on the 60-day IL now that they picked up Luis Guillorme, so we're not going to see him for a while. We all knew that coming into this season that Rendon was going to be on the IL at some point. And did the Angels anticipate that? Did they compensate that for that at all? No. They thought, well, if Rendon goes down, then we have Rengifo, and if he goes down, we'll figure something out. Now we're down to Cole Tucker. God bless Cole Tucker, Mr. Vanessa Hudgens, but he's obviously not a third baseman. He's struggling over there. Look, this stinks because Rendon got off to a horrid start. Then he was coming around after the quote-unquote standing ovation. I put it in quotes because I appreciate the effort from people who wanted to give him that support and say, look, dude, you're on our team. We got to support you. But there were a lot of boos, and the people who were there also said there were a lot of boos. And he was leading off and becoming a good leadoff guy, especially working the counts and really helping see a lot of pitches from the starters and knocking them around a little bit, making these guys work. But the truth is, these injuries are expected now with Rendon. He cannot stay healthy, and the Angels did nothing to anticipate that or compensate for it whatsoever. The next injury, Mike Trout with a torn meniscus in his knee, which is a 4 to 6 recovery time. He was very upset about the fact that he got injured. The surgery went well, and it seems like they took the temporary fix route. And that makes me nervous because there were two options, according to Dr. Jesse Morse on Twitter. One was going to keep him out probably the whole year, but long term, it was going to make sure his knee was fully repaired. It sounds like they did the short term thing where he could easily get hurt again because it was a temporary kind of fix. And that makes me nervous. And it also makes me ask the question, what do you even do with Trout? Some felt like, maybe he was stealing too many bags and that's what caused it. But I got to say, the way he runs the bases is probably the most efficient in the league. He's still got a top sprint speed, but have you guys watched the way he cuts the corners of the bases really tightly? That's effective base running. But also, when you're cutting the bases like that and your knee kind of makes a weird turn as you're going around the bases, something could have happened there. It's also an issue of the outfield. He's on his feet all the time. And I understand that he wants to be out in center field, but it sounds like they need to have a conversation. The truth is, even if he DH'd full time, he's still got to run the bases. And this knee issue is going to be a problem, I think. They took the temporary route, and that makes me really nervous. Finally, the bad. No, the ugly. Excuse me. The ugly. Robert Stevenson, our relief pitcher that had an effective year last year. They spent the most money on him. Biggest offseason contract the Angels gave out this offseason. He is out for the season with an elbow injury. Had to get a brace put in there. He had shoulder soreness coming into spring training. We didn't even get to see him. And so you're thinking, all right, well, he's got to work through that. And then as he was working his way back in a rehab game, he left early because his elbow started hurting. And again, this is the biggest contract that Perry Minasian gave out this offseason. Now, there is a clause where if there's an elbow injury, they get to get him on a really cheap, affordable third year. So they will get 3 years with him. And that third year is going to come, I think, at a cost of $4.25 million, something way cheaper than the $11 million he got. But this is supposed to be the setup guy. This is supposed to be the guy that helped improve this bullpen. And it is absolutely ridiculous that this happened. First of all, is it suspicious to anybody else that there was that elbow injury clause in the contract? And second of all, how does he even pass medicals? How does he even pass all the screenings that they do before you sign a contract with a guy? Something tells me the Angels knew what was up. I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat here. But between the fact that he passed medicals and they put that elbow contract or that elbow clause into his contract, come on, guys. We're not stupid. So the biggest contract you give out to this relief guy is supposed to help you out, and he goes down for the season. That is straight up ugly to me. Hey, I want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen every single day. The Angels are playing the Royals tonight, 6:38 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels. Hey, give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter. Connect with Mike and I on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Whether you're watching or listening to today's show, come on over to YouTube. Hit that subscribe button because we want you to be an everydayer. That really helps out our channel. And if you hit that like button on the video, it puts our videos and episodes in front of more Angel fans so that they can find us. We love to add to our community. You guys have been so great at doing that. We appreciate your support. And again, it directly affects Mike and I. So if you want to give back to the Halo Bros for all the Angel content and just the work that we put in, we really take this seriously. We love connecting with you, talking Angels baseball. On Monday's show, we're going to have Mike back because he should have his power back. Hopefully they don't make him wait over the weekend. But we're going to recap all 4 games of the season. And I looked at the score. I understand, again, we didn't recap game 1. It's not pretty. So we'll have a lot to say about Thursday's game. And, of course, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll be recapping those as well. Until then, my name is John, and my brother Mike will be back with us on Monday. I hope you have a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day to the moms out there, the mom figures in your life. I hope you celebrate well, and we'll see you back here on Monday. Happy Mother's Day to Mama Halo Bro. Kathy, we love you. Thanks for being our mom.